Good afternoon and happy 2021. I'm so excited about the year ahead. I want to talk with you today about something that I just cannot get out of my mind, a story that probably most of you are familiar with, but it's found in Luke chapter 2. And I came across this as I was rereading the Christmas story, but this is after Jesus was growing and his parents went every year for the Passover, to celebrate Passover. They would go to Jerusalem. Well, when he was 12 years old, again, you're probably familiar with this story. When he was 12 years old, his parents went for the celebration, and then they went to go home, and they realized that Jesus was not with them. And so Jesus was actually in the temple. And so Luke 2:46 and 47 says, 3 days later, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, both listening and asking them questions. So that's what I want to talk about today is, listen, think about it. Jesus, fully God, fully man. He's 12 years old. He's in the temple for 3 days without his parents. But what I want to hone in on here is what he was doing. He's fully God. And it says he is listening and asking them questions. What would happen in our life if we approached our life in our relationships with listening and asking questions? Think about it. Let's just think about a relationship with God. What would happen if you approached your relationship with God first listening and asking questions? Wow. What if we approached God's word from a different perspective, not from what we think we already know and what we think we've already learned, but from a perspective of listening to what new he has to say to us for our relationship for today? And then ask him questions about that. Okay, let's take it further. What if we approached our relationship with our spouse this way? Listening first and asking questions. It could change our life. I don't know about you, but I mean, the most arguments that Ted and I get into is because, one of us wasn't listening and didn't know what we were really arguing about, or maybe we didn't ask enough questions to get the full thing. I mean, this would change our life if we listened and asked questions. Jesus, the Son of God and fully man, positioned himself in the temple among the teachers. He was both listening and asking questions, although he already knew all the answers. Wow. The next verse says, all who heard him. So the first verse we would say, what was there to hear? He was just listening and asking questions. But it says, all who heard him were amazed by his intelligence, his understanding, and his answers. So what happens? When he listened and asked questions, inevitably they began to ask him questions. I bet they wanted to know how a 12-year-old boy would have this much knowledge. How would a 12-year-old boy have this much intelligence? They wanted to know. So it changed to them asking him questions. So my encouragement as you go into, and as we all go into 2021, is to approach this year as forever learners. That we're going to approach our relationships with God, with our spouses. What would happen in our workplace if we listened first and asked questions? And then we repeated that and we listened and we asked questions and we gained knowledge. This is a whole lifestyle of learning, a lifestyle of listening before we speak. See, my concern is that we want to be heard so bad that we're speaking things that we don't really know a lot about, but we're acting like we do. I want to challenge you. It's not about being heard. Your life is about listening and asking questions and learning. And out of relationship, you'll be heard. I encourage you, walk into this new year with a new perspective of wanting and a hunger of wanting to learn. Jesus did both of these things. He both listened and he asked questions. I want to be like him. I want to be that person that listens to people, that asks more questions. Ask people, what is your story? Tell me more about that. Be that person. Be that person. And this week, I challenge you, look at your life and ask yourself, am I listening and asking questions? Or am I just pushing forward and moving in things that I need to take a step back and listen and ask some questions? All right, I love you. I will see you in a couple days. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week.